I would like to go back to basics. Namely, presentations today, they confirmed this, what we know already, that if you increase temperature of human body or parts of this body by several degrees Celsius, this might be harmful to our health for shorter or longer time. However, my interest is what is physiological relevance, and Ken asked this question already earlier but didn't get answered. What is physiological relevance of this, that we have small temperature change, say 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 degrees Celsius, in small area of brain, nothing about core changes in temperature. How physiologically relevant change of 0.1 to 0.3 degrees Celsius in small area of brain cortex is physiologically, how important it is. Because then if it is irrelevant, if this temperature, small temperature change is irrelevant, then we have another question, much broader, because we have to consider that all the time we are getting published papers that are showing some biological effects of exposures to low-level RF-EMF cell phone radiation. So if those temperature changes, 0.1, 0.3 degrees, for example, in brain cortex, are irrelevant for physiology, where from those effects are coming? Either all these studies are wrong, or there is something else, namely non-thermal.
I think, yes, I understand your question. The problem is that if to be in very, straight position, I think 0.1, 0.3, it's not change. Because when individual watching porno movie, it increases 4 or 5 times higher. We can determine threshold for this type of activity. And there are other activity. Simple physical exercise with not proper clothes in real people, which I can observe in health center, can increase temperature 2 degrees. But people have fun, they continue to do this, they drink terrible amount of water, and they continue this for hours. I don't know. And they're going in sauna periodically with crossed legs. Of course, and this situation for most of people consider it as fun and no effect. I know where we're going. Possibly, I think there is something what acts on brain function or brain, something in brain, but not the temperature. Because it's really very difficult to change temperature. I am, to some extent, skeptical to some studies when try to speculate what it should be increase in temperature. Because measurement, according to my knowledge, really very limited or not existent, proper measurement. All data with humans, today it was someone showed picture from Romana studies, which showed that brain temperature 1 degree higher than body temperature. But this data were obtained in patients from neurosurgery. It was very sick patient, which lying in the bed, and it's not normal. It's beautiful data because they did, first time they measured for 15 days or 12 days temperature continuously in real human with real sensor inside of the brain. I think we need to search for something else, if there is real effect, but not some type of psychic effect, which can also occur.
Okay, so if I understood you correctly, this small temperature change would be more or less irrelevant to physiological changes.
Because they are core.
So you are saying that we should look for something else. So if those effects that are observed in many published studies are real, if they are real, so then something else must be responsible for them, because temperature change, this kind of tiny 0.1, 0.3 degrees, cannot be.
Oh, it may be also related to the procedure, experimental procedure. For example, we continuously, in drug studies, doing injection of saline. Saline injection induced 40 minutes change in temperature. It's not saline, of course, induced, but procedure when animal is taken or touched and injected with saline, even with professionals which do this very nicely. The same story can be in experiments where people somehow informed that it will be something potentially unusual, potentially dangerous, and you see some increase, for example, in oxygen consumption, which occurring, increase in oxygen consumption 5 times higher occurring with physical exercise and with walking, for example. And the effect may be stronger than reported with electromagnetic exposure. That's why, I don't know.
Can I also add?
Yeah, please.
I'd like to also add something here. There is definitely a thermal effect. The fact that the thermoregulatory capacity of our body is able to compensate for this doesn't mean that it's negligible. The fact that the human head thermoregulation capacity is really high and can actually dissipate this heat very fast doesn't mean that cell phones do not affect our brain temperature and do not cause heat storage. We are just able to remove it. But the fact that the brain metabolism is increased, this is important. And as Eugene mentioned this morning, brain metabolism is 20% of the metabolism of the entire body. So what about increasing that by from 20 reaching 23%? You're using a lot more energy. The fact that we're able to compensate for that doesn't mean that it's not important to discuss, and it's not important to include in guidelines. But maybe we're just, and this is what I was trying to also stress in my talk, we're just looking at the wrong variables to monitor. I think we should monitor the thermal effects, but maybe not in the way that we've been doing so far. And we should also consider pathological conditions and the effect of age and fitness, because these people may not be able, their thermoregulatory capacity might not be able to dissipate this heat and to minimize these effects.
So then you mean, on the other hand, you mean that this small temperature change might be meaningful physiologically, because if we are looking, for example, in vitro at enzymatic reactions, by every 0.1 degree Celsius, our enzyme begins to work better until certain level of breakdown. So it means that this small change might have some impact. This dissipation has also always delayed as compared with induction. So meaning you induce increase in temperature and take some time to dissipate this heat. So meaning that this small piece of tissue, small area in brain, would be for some time, I don't know, milliseconds, seconds, minutes, little bit warmer than the rest, meaning warmer this way that some biological or biochemical reactions may be speeded up during this time.
Well, as far as I know, and actually I was not disagreeing with Eugene, we're saying the same thing. All the studies that I have come across do show that EMF exposure increases metabolic rate in the brain. So as you said, the enzymatic reactions do happen faster. What we are saying both is that our capacity to dissipate that is greater, and that's why we don't see it, but it happens. And the important thing is, if you look at the right variables, you're able to monitor that. Because at the end of the day, when we're looking for cutoffs, we're looking for cutoffs to see if there's any effects. So what we're saying is that the effects are there. It's just that maybe local temperature might not be able to show that.
Okay, but then you were saying that RF exposures cause changes in metabolism in brain. You were quoting, or some of you were quoting, a study by Volkov about glucose metabolism in brain. Is there something else? Or is this the one study showing in humans?
I showed 2 studies, one from the 80s, I think, and one of that. These are the 2 that I've come across.
So that's not really much.
But I haven't come
Yeah.
across any study
Yeah.
showing the opposite, though.
Jafar. It is